was like a drama, but I just didn't know I was supposed to fail. And because I didn't know I was supposed to fail, I just worked really hard. And
Just did.
so that to me was probably one of my biggest life lessons. And because of that, just what's made me fall in love with the industry.
Welcome back to Strong Conversations, real stories from the leaders, innovators, and change makers in the building materials industry. I am Sam Marcoux, as always, and he is Russ Kathrein, the Vice President of Do It Best. Russ, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you doing this. This is not your first podcast. This is not your first rodeo.
No.
Maybe not even your second.
I think I use the line. My wife says I've never met a Mike I didn't like.
Never met a Mike. How many people named Mike have you hired over the years?
No, she's talking about microphones.
No, I get it. So tell everybody what you do for Do It Best.
So I am the Vice President of Lumber and Building Material. We have 9,000 locations. Our members have 9,000 locations. Granted, a lot of them are hardware stores. We have a lot of lumberyards, home centers. And we sell quite a bit of lumber and quite a bit of building materials.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible network.
It's in the bees.
Yeah. So this was not your first job in our industry. You're a lifer. You grew up in this industry.
I am a lifer, yeah.
So are you second generation?
Yeah. My dad had a lumberyard in the Chicago area called Totem Lumber.
Yeah.
It's still there. My brother owns it.
Wow. So I think I saw you on another podcast appearance, and you said that your first job, you were like 5 years old, running around.
Yeah, my dad used to take us in to work, and I was the youngest by quite a bit. So my older brothers would be working in the lumberyard, and my job was to dust telephones. And load the pop machine.
Okay.
And I drank a lot of pop while I was loading the pop machine. So that's my intro into the lumber business.
I mean, the house has got to take a VIG, right?
And then later bought another lumberyard. My brother ran it, and I used to go after school. And my job was to basically, I was like 12, 13. I'd take the train from one town to the other for 50 cents and get off, and the lumberyard was right there. And then I would, my job was to entertain the customers until my brother could get to them. So if we had too many customers, I'd just stand at the counter and talk to them. So this traded the podcast personality.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, yeah, you're not foreign with entertainment or just talking.
No, it's just all from the industry.
So were you? I mean, I know you were indoctrinated young, right? You're like you said, second gen. But did you always feel like this is what I'm going to do with my life? I'm going to be in this industry.
Well, it's funny. That was kind of the thought and the expectation. My older brother was in it. My middle siblings weren't, and then my dad always thought I would be. And I kind of planned that. I went to Michigan State, got a degree in finance, and started interviewing just for the heck of it, and got a job as a financial analyst at NCR's corporate headquarters, and called my dad and said, hey, guess what? When I graduate in a month, I'm not going to come to the lumberyard. I'm going to go, which was actually a good thing.
Right.
To go. So I did the corporate thing for about 2 years. Went to United Airlines, worked for them, crunching bags, and then up and moved into the office and did that for about a year. And then the opportunity came with my brother to buy my dad out. So we did that.
So at that point, it's like, yes, we're going back into the family business. But you had these experiences from just other parts of the business, other parts of life that you're able to actually bring. So you have a little bit of a different view than your brothers.
I always think that the second generation would do well to go work elsewhere.
Interesting.
There's some companies in our business. Marvin Windows has a thing where they will let people go out and do what they want. If they want to be part of the family business, don't quote me, I think it's like 35. They got to be back in the business by 35.
Okay.
But they actually encourage people to go out and do it. And I think that's smart.
Just to give them that life experience and just see views from other areas, not just have this tunnel vision.
I've seen other companies in our industry where they're manufacturers, where they're lumber dealers, where the next generation, could be second or third, just comes right in. And then he or she's on an expedited, they're 29 and they're the vice president of sales. And you're kind of like, I don't know if they're really, nothing, God bless them, but most of the time, they don't have that outside perspective.
So with you, and I'm kind of guilty of that. I started in this industry. I'm first generation, if you want to call it that, but I started as a teenager. Yeah. And it was one of those things where once I got into this industry, I wasn't going away unless somebody pushed me out the door.
It's a great industry.
It really is.
It really is. It's a handshake industry. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of this, but it is, your word is your bond.
Yes.
The worst thing you can do in this industry is double cross someone.
Right.
Because it gets double cross or not follow through on your word. It gets
sussed out quick, and like you kind of are no longer going to be around. You're not going to be around very long, I guess.
I don't know if you're familiar with Dilbert's Law.
Yes. No. Sorry. I thought it was something else.
No. Dilbert's Law is be careful of the toes you step on today because they might be connected to the ass you're kissing tomorrow. And this is a small industry.
It very much is.
Am I allowed to say ass?
You just said it twice. So if it just cancels each other out.
Okay, good.
So you're good. So
You can bleep it. You can put
no, it's everything's fine. We're good. So talk to me about that, because like you said, you're a lifer. You had some outside experience. You own a lumberyard.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on the corporate side of things.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on the independent lumberyard side of things,
Yeah.
and pretty much everything in between. You've pretty much seen and done it all.
Actually was a general manager for a wholesale distribution for a couple of years. Too,
So you've pretty much seen and done it all. First of all, what is it about this industry that kept you here? I mean, we're saying it's a great industry, but what is it that...
It's the people. It's an industry where you're not limited by your pedigree. You're not limited by where you went to school, by your degrees. It's an open opportunity. And, I've been blessed. I've moved around a lot of times because of opportunity.
Yeah.
It's really cool that way. There's not a lot of industries like that.
Yeah.
And you can really make your own way. I remember when I was working for BMC, I talked to our chairman, and I said, I was like probably 35, and I'm like, hey, should I go get my MBA? And he goes, don't you think you've already got it by now? And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe I was 30 now, but his point was your experience.
You did it, yeah.
You don't need to get the paper.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it works that way for me too. I remember, again, being 19 years old and being on the sales team and just being like, man, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't,
No.
quite frankly. But somebody saw something and said, let him stick around, and if he works out, he works out. And then 5-6 years later, I kind of felt like, okay, I know enough to go do my job now.
Well, it's interesting. The way that my brother and I bought my dad's business was, it was in Chapter 11 from a sales tax audit. Somewhere along the line, the state of Illinois changed the rules, and you had to have a signed resale certificate. And we didn't get the memo. We would just put the sales tax number on the invoice. So, long story, they audited us, and they assessed $1.6 million. This is in the mid 80s for taxes, penalties, and interest. And so, company went to Chapter 11 for about 6 months, and then my dad, he was done. He just wanted out. So we essentially bought it for no money down, with the agreement we'd pay him for life if we reorganized it. So I, coming from the corporate side, I was the numbers guy, so I was the president, reorganized it. And the short story is, I was too dumb to know that I was supposed to fail, and we ended up succeeding. I mean, we had a hostile takeover attempt during a court by a competitor. I was on the stand as the judge for 3 days. I mean, it was like a drama, but I just didn't know I was supposed to fail. And because I didn't know I was supposed to fail, I just worked really hard. And
just did.
So that to me was probably one of my biggest life lessons. And because of that, just made me fall in love with the industry. I had vendors that stood by me. I had vendors that went against me. And I have been taking it out on them ever since.
Well, with age and experience comes wisdom,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that I know about you to be true is that you are a champion for independent lumber yards.
Absolutely.
And
not just me, do it best itself. I'm going to put
correct.
a plug in.
We are absolutely
the champion of the independents.
Champion of the independents. So you've lived that life.
Yes.
You know what the pitfalls are. You know what success looks like.
Yep.
So you have an opportunity, and you have to give back and let people know what goes into either opening a lumberyard or expanding, and maybe what you should do or maybe when you shouldn't. So I kind of wanted to focus on that a little bit and just throw that out there.
I have a lot of really good shouldn't examples that I've earned myself.
Let's use you then. Let's use it. So what if I want to open a lumberyard tomorrow in my hometown? What's the number one thing I should avoid?
Should avoid?
Avoid.
Well, I might kind of
go ahead. Yeah.
A lot of people call me and say, I shouldn't say it. People have called me and say, I own a hardware store. I've got a couple of contractors that said if I open a lumberyard, they'll buy from me.
Okay.
Avoid that.
Oh, right.
Because they're going to come and go, well, wait a minute, you're more expensive than XYZ. And it's like, well, wait, I'm just getting started. I can't get as big. And they're like, well, when you get big enough, I'll buy from you. So don't do that.
Okay.
There's got to be untapped resources or untapped opportunity. The other thing I would say is don't think you can just, it's like anything. It's like somebody opens a restaurant and has never owned a restaurant. You want to have some experience. You want to have some operations experience, and you want to have some sales experience. And you can't just do, build it and they will come. Right. Because they won't come.
So that's the number one thing that people do is they have the kernel of an idea and say, I want to do this, and it's almost a little too froggy, and they jump too early.
A lot of time it's, I've got 3 acres behind my store that I can convert to lumber. That'd be kind of cool. I love the smell of wood.
Right.
That's not exactly a business plan.
Yeah.
So you want to do a business plan.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, okay, you're going to take the plunge. Make sure you have access to working capital.
Okay.
Most small businesses in general fail because of cash flow.
Right.
They don't understand that you're going to have money tied up in inventory, you're going to have money tied up in AR, and you have to be able to weather the storm. And the lesson I learned is don't go looking for money when you need it. Have it in place before you do
Yeah, you got to do it before. You got to be like a bear in the
No
wintertime.
bank wants to loan somebody who needs money.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the oldest thing in the book, right? They're only loaning money to the people that probably don't necessarily.
Or they set up a line of credit when you don't need it, but then when you need it, you have access to it, and they can't take it away.
So what's the number one thing on the other side of this? Being proactive, and I say, okay, I want to open a lumberyard. What's the first thing I should be doing? Like you said, have a business plan. Is that
well, have a business plan and talk in your community.
Okay.
You got to talk to builders. Find out, you don't want to just open up a consumer lumberyard for the casual DIY. Now, you can do a little bit of that. I'm talking about existing hardware store wants to do a little DIY. That's what I recommend they start with.
Right. Okay.
Do a little DIY and expand that way. But let's say someone wants to open up a lumberyard. If you're going to sell lumber and building materials, you're going to be selling to the pros. You sell to, home builders. You sell to remodelers, that kind of stuff. Go out and talk to them. Or better yet, find a salesman that's selling to them and find out what they like and what they don't like. What makes independents strong is they're tight in the community. They know what their community wants. They know the people in the community. They get first look at things because they're the first to find out about things.
Yeah. And isn't that the charm of an independent, is that they know the community?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's not a nameless, faceless customer. It is John from down the street or Susie from up the hill. And
I mean, I can tell you that when I was running a lot of different operations for ProBuild, which is a big corporate company, we did a lot of decisions based on housing starts. There's a lot more to a market than just housing starts.
Right.
And know what's going on, know the community, be tied into the community. You build loyalty. Over time, you'll have a guy that's like, hey, I'd love to come buy for you, Russ, but I'm buying from XYZ Lumber because when times got tough, he carried me.
What's one of the other advantages of an independent? I mean, I think people look at big corporations and say, I can't compete.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But people have been very successful in that space. So what are the advantages of an independent?
So, and it's not a knock on the big guys, but the old adage is they come by lumber and say nothing's going to change. It has to change.
Yeah.
They can't have 20 different lumberyards doing it 20 different ways. So they have to standardize. And with standardization comes homogenization. And with homogenization, you go from having 31 flavors to probably having one,
chocolate,
maybe two.
vanilla. Yeah.
And that's just the reality.
Yeah.
So number one, if you're getting a bought and they say nothing's going to change, that's not true. What the independents have the advantage on is they can add those 31 flavors. They see an opportunity, they can quickly pivot. They can create a business, a small business within a business to address that. They can take a chance on a new product line, whereas a large company would be like, hey, we're going to have demand across our whole markets.
Region or market,
before we're willing to put that in. I can sit there and say, put a unit in. Let me see if it sells. If it doesn't, we take it back. Sure. So you can pivot. You can customize. The other thing is you get great customer service.
Yeah.
When a manager's transferring in and out every 2-3 years, you're not having any consistency. You got an owner in a market. He's going to build relationships, and that helps immensely.
Yeah.
There's a neat lumberyard in Chicago, in the city. Service to high-end builders. And when the seasonality got slow, the normal corporate lumberyard would lay off their drivers, lay off their yard guys, and then they try and rehire guys back. Well, obviously you don't have consistency. I mean, your drivers are the ones that interact with your customers. So what they would do, they made high margin, they'd save money. They would actually pay their employees to come to work and do things like paint the chain link fence. You came in and looked at their facility, and their black chain link fence in the city of Chicago you needed was glossy black. And the yard looked at me, they do maintenance. They'd patch holes, so the yard looked impeccable. It was the cleanest lumberyard I ever saw. But he recognized that, hey, my greatest asset is my people. And I need to figure out a way to keep them busy and keep them employed here so I have them so I can make money selling high margin customers because they expect service.
Well, it's super creative too. I mean, like you said, I mean, you keep the employee engaged. They have that consistency. Yeah, their jobs may be changing from month to month because of, weather conditions and everything else and market conditions, but they're there the whole time. And like you said, even just putting fresh paint on the walls, or in this case, a chain link fence, to the customer going, oh, they're investing. in this lumberyard or this hardware store. Maybe I want to shop here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is you can be accommodating. Like, for instance, we had at my lumberyard, we had a large Hispanic workforce for years out in the yard and drivers. And we had a lot of them would come in and say, hey, it's going to get slow in December. I'm going to take the month off and go down and visit my family in Mexico. No, we didn't have to pay them.
Right.
But it was fine. And they were happy with it. They were happy to do it. I could do that. Corporate policy is not going to allow you to do that.
Right.
That kind of thing. Funny story. We had a guy, his name was Heriberto, and his son Alberto worked for me too. And Heriberto worked in our industrial, and basically he cut things with a chop saw all day long. He was like a machine. Nobody could we call him Eddie. No one could keep up with Eddie. Didn't speak a lot of English, but he's a fantastic worker. One day he comes into my office with his son. His son says, my dad would like to go back to Mexico to visit my mom. I'm like, sure. And he goes, yeah, he hasn't been back for 20 years.
Wow.
And so he wanted like 3 months off. And we said, yeah, fine. Well, 3 months go by, no Alberto. And I asked Alberto, he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, bummer, because he was like a great worker. So a year and a half goes by. And then one day, Eddie comes walking in, goes his time card, punches the time card, and goes to work. Now,
I'm back.
Could you do that in a corporate environment? Heck no. I was glad to have Eddie back.
Yeah, you were like, oh, there he is. Oh, that's funny. We're talking to Russ Kathrein from Do It Best, and just sharing stories, sharing your wisdom, which I appreciate. Again, coming here on Strong Conversations. Another area where you share your wisdom, I think, and you give back to the industry is you're a pretty prominent writer. You write a lot of articles.
Yeah, it's a weird. So what happened was I got to go down to a trade show, to LBM Strategies meeting, and I was asked to be a speaker. And I got to know the publisher. And then one day Rick called me up and said, hey, would you do a guest column? Would you write an editorial commentary? And I said, sure. And I did it. It was kind of fun and it was easy. And then Rick called me up and said, hey, would you be interested in doing a column? I said, on what? He goes, well, what floats your boat?
Right.
And I said, leadership. I've always loved leadership, read leadership books. He said, write one on leadership. So I started doing it, and it was a little hard at first, but what I decided was my audience was going to be the new manager.
That's the key.
And that I was going to try and warn them off making all the mistakes I made. So all my stories tried to show a little bit of something that I did or something I saw, and some was successful and a lot of it was not successful.
Right.
And I would even, as I went on, I would even get to the point where, like, you would tell me a story about how you screwed up. Or when I wrote about it, I would change it to me because it wasn't fair. Well, it's this guy, Sam.
Right.
So after a while, I was like, man, these people must read this and go, how did you succeed? You screw up all the time.
Yeah, what is this guy's problem? But I mean, it's a good storytelling mechanism, right? I do that. Like, I do stand-up comedy, and I think everyone knows that. I've got all these stories from my children, but on stage, it's one kid.
Yes.
Because it's just from a storytelling device. You
don't want to complicate it.
It's so easy. You need them to follow along, right? So I totally get that.
So you got one kid, they're like, man, you got a dumb kid.
Yeah, what's wrong with your kid? Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, they know what stories are theirs, but, like, again, this kid that I've created on stage is something completely different. So you just wrote another column, and I know another one just came out recently, but do you feel an obligation to give back? I mean, you must like doing it.
It to me, it is giving back.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, sure, there's an ego component. It's funny, for the longest time, I didn't hear anything. I might get an email by going, hey, great article. It seems like in the past 2 or 3 years, when I meet people who I don't know, they'll go, hey, man, I read your column. Hey, man, I read. And it's kind of cool. We all have ego.
It just
I
came
probably
up.
have a bigger one than you, but we all have ego.
Well, you've done more things than I have, so it's,
okay.
it's justified.
It'll come.
I mean, I haven't been on Oprah. We'll get to that in a second. But I actually last week, a gentleman I was talking to recommended your latest article. So, I mean, it's out there. It's definitely being read.
The funny thing about it is I will write an article and I'll go, oh, this is great. You know where I'm going. This is great. I can't wait to send this out. And I will get crickets.
Who's reading?
And then I will have something happen to me and I'll be mad. And maybe it's my boss or maybe it's a customer or whatever. And I will write this it's a venting article.
Right.
It's like, like there's no I in team kind of thing or blah, blah, blah. And I don't think anything of it. And I get a ton of feedback. So I never know. I'm sure the less I think about it, probably the better it is.
It's almost like, it's got to be like a songwriter, or like somebody might write a song that they think is perfect and like, this is my opus. And then people are like, it's okay. Well, we really like this one you did over here. And they're like, I wrote that in 2 minutes.
What was there was one of the Eagles songs is a guitar lick. I don't know if it's Life in the Fast Lane, but it's a guitar lick that Joe Walsh used to use just to warm up.
Oh, really?
And he would just use that same guitar.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
being
then, and then one day Don Henley walked by and goes, "What is that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's just what I wore." He goes, "That's a song."
That's a song. Well, this has been a song. This has been a fantastic song. You being on the show. I teased it. So we're going to end on this story because I think it's a fantastic story. But you might be the only person in our industry ever that's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. So you have to tell the story as much as you're willing to share. That's how we're going to end this podcast. What happened?
So years ago, we're at the IBS in Orlando 2026.
Correct.
This would be in 1994. I was at the National Hardware Show because it used to be in Chicago, and it was the equivalent of IBS. And because my lumberyard was there, I would always take some of my managers. We'd go down to the show and walk and talk to vendors and that. And we were a small yard, but it was a great way to see product. So I took two of my managers, and we spent the whole day walking around. And then we ended up at Dick's Last Resort.
Okay.
And we were sitting there having a beer, because we had time to kill. And all of a sudden, these girls in black T-shirts that said Harpo Studios come marching through the crowd. And I go, "Oh, look, Oprah's here." And they're looking at, and the girls come up and they go, "Hey, we're doing a show on gossip, and we wanted to know if you were gossiping." And I look and I go, "Hell yeah, we were at a trade show. That's all you do is gossip at a trade show." And they go, "Oh, that's really good." They go, "Would you do that on camera?" And I'm like, this is before I really found out I like microphones a lot. And so I was a little like, we're probably fine. But the two young guys were like, yeah, we'll do it.
They were all about it.
I'm like, all right, that's cool.
Okay.
So they come up. We're at a little four-top table. It's like 1, 2, 3. They come up. They park the camera right in front of us. And they go, "Okay, you're on." And they ask a question. And the two guys go and just froze.
They froze.
And so I just jumped in and started talking. And they're asking questions. And it worked real well. So they said, "Hey, that's great." And they walked away. And then they came back. They said, "Hey, we're asking certain people to take a gossip challenge. Would you fill out you got to pledge not to gossip for 2 weeks. You got to fill out all the gossip that you hear." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, my wife and I have the same birthday. It's my turn to do something. I'll do it if you'll give me tickets to the show." And they said, "Deal." So I come home with this little blue the blue essay books, and I give it to my wife. She's like, "What did you get me into?" Because she is not into that at all. And I said, "Look, just do it, and we'll get tickets out." Well, she was a lead bartender at a big restaurant, and then I was at work, and I was going through my brother and I were trying to buy each other out. It wasn't a pleasant time. And so I would kind of write about that, and then she would write about all the stuff that was going on. Well, we found out at the time that our controller was kind of open about what payroll was.
Okay.
And my wife happened to write that on the log, and the Oprah show would call her. Well, next thing you know, Oprah called her and goes, "Tell me about this," because it turns out Oprah was going through it went through an issue where her best friend kind of betrayed her on that.
Oh, wow.
So this is something near and dear to her. So I come home, she goes, "Yeah, Oprah called." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool," thinking the show to check in. And so then one day I come home, my wife goes, "Hey, guess what? We're going to be on the Oprah show." I'm like, "What?" And this is totally out of character for my wife.
She's excited about it.
Well, she's like, "Yeah, but she's not like, I'm the one who would normally do
Right.
that."
Right.
Well, she said, "Yeah," she asked us to be on. So we got the limo, do the green room, go down, got on, and we're on the Oprah show. And I go back and look at the videos. We were like dressed awkward. It was like 90s. It's like, oh man.
The mid-90s. It was a different time.
And Oprah, so we tell the story, and I didn't think it was a great story, but it was near and dear to her. And then she kind of dropped the bomb. She goes, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" Well, they had told me that this is going to air in 3 months. So I hadn't brought this up with my brother yet. We were kind of fighting, and I just said, "Well, I'm going to get rid of her. I'm going to fire her." And they're like, "Okay." So we get done, and they take us a limo home. Well, they call us 3 days later and go, "Oprah liked the show so much it's airing tomorrow."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh God, this is the stupid mistakes you make when you're in your 20s.
And you think you have time to address this issue.
And I didn't. And it was dumb of me to say it, and I regretted it. But we're hoping no one would see the thing. And no one did, except my controller got up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, and turned on TV and watched a rerun of the Oprah show. So the good news is it brought everything to a head. It resolved problems with my brother and I. I moved on. It was fine. But lesson learned is don't say anything on TV that you don't want to get out.
Don't say anything on TV that you don't want to get out. That is not just industry advice.
That's
Russ.
podcast too, right?
That is podcast advice. That is life advice for anybody watching this or listening to this right now. Write that one down.
But see, now you've taken away, if anyone watches your podcast, hopefully they don't.
Well, we have differing views on that, but yes.
Well, now you take it because when you're in a crowd and or in a meeting, you're supposed to introduce yourself. You're supposed to make a list of all these things, and you're supposed to say which one is true.
Yeah.
I would always put, I was a guest on Oprah. And they'd always go, no, you were probably a major league pitcher, or no. And I was like, no one ever guessed that.
Yeah, you could still get away with it. People will forget. And you could still use that. Or you could just flip it and say you're on Maury Povich, and then you could still, but now it's a lie.
No, I was on
the
Oprah.
Truth. Yeah, there you go. So, Russ, thank you very much for being here on Strong Conversations. Thank all of you for joining us. We got more conversations coming up soon. See you next time.